I have told this story exactly twice in my life. Once to my mother, the night I got home. Once to the VA counselor they assigned me the following spring, a man named Garrett, who wrote things down in a yellow legal pad and never looked up. He wrote it down like it was a case file, my mother cried. Neither of them understood what it meant. I am going to try again. My name is Donnie Marsh. I was a corporal in the 75th Ranger Regiment, 2nd Battalion, and I spent 2 deployments in eastern Afghanistan before a vehicle-borne IED outside a village in Paktika province ended my career and very nearly ended everything else. I was 24 years old, and I had a femoral bleed that should have killed me in 11 minutes. It did not kill me because of a woman whose name I did not know. I am getting to her. That is the whole point. I came into Garver County Regional on a Wednesday morning in November, 2 years after Paktika, in the back of a friend's truck because I was too stubborn to call an ambulance. The wound was an old surgical site that had never fully closed, a secondary repair from my 3rd hospitalization that had opened up again overnight, leaking slow and steady, the kind of thing that is not immediately life-threatening until it suddenly is. I knew the signs. I had learned them from the best. The intake desk put me in Bay 7, and a charge nurse named Pratt came through the curtain 4 minutes later with clipboard and eyes like a traffic court judge. She looked at my chart, looked at my leg, and began rattling off questions in a tone that suggested she had already decided how this morning was going to go. A younger nurse appeared in the doorway behind her. Late 20s, maybe 30. Dark hair pulled back tight, scrubs the color of slate. She had a stethoscope around her neck and a badge lanyard, and the kind of posture that comes from learning very young not to take up too much room. She started to step forward. She had a tray kit in her hands, already prepped, and Pratt stopped her with 2 words. I've got it. The younger nurse held her position a half second. Something moved across her face, gone before I could read it. Then she stepped back out of the doorway. She's morning shift, Pratt said to no one in particular, setting her clipboard down. Not what this patient needs. I did not say anything. I have learned over the years that some battles are not mine to fight. I lay back and let Pratt work, and I stared at the ceiling tiles, and I thought about what I always thought about in hospital rooms. A dirt road in Paktika province at 4 in the afternoon, the smell of burning fuel, the sound of a voice I did not recognize telling me stay Faye with her. Just stay right here, I have you. I had been looking for that voice for 2 years. Pratt stepped out to run my admittance orders, and the morning shift nurse came back. She moved quietly, not tentatively quietly, which is a different thing. She set her tray kit on the stand and began checking the secondary dressing on my leg with clean, practiced hands, and she did not make small talk, which I appreciated. Most people make small talk when they are nervous. She was not nervous. She pulled my intake chart from the foot of the bed to log her observations, and she uncapped her pen and she wrote a notation in the vitals column. Nothing unusual in that, but the mark she made was not a standard hospital notation. It was a small bracket, a line through the center, a cross above, a triage marker I had seen exactly once in my life, drawn in the dirt beside my head by a woman in multicam who was trying to keep me conscious. Field shorthand, unit specific, something you would not learn in a nursing program or a hospital rotation. Something you would learn in a battalion aid station in eastern Afghanistan, in a unit that developed its own marking system. Because they were working fast and often alone, and they needed something that could be read in 3 seconds by anyone they trained. I went very still. She felt it. She looked up from the chart. I said, "Where did you learn that, Mark?" She did not answer right away. She looked at the notation, then at me, and something shifted in her expression. Not alarm, not guilt, just a kind of careful recognition, like someone who has kept a door closed for a long time and is deciding whether to open it. Paktika, she said. 2nd Battalion, aid station rotation. I could not speak for a moment. Sergeant Kowalczyk's team, I said. August. A road outside Oregon E. The vehicle. She set the chart down. Bay 4 of the aid station, she said quietly. You had a femoral bleed. I had 12 minutes of field pressure, a tourniquet above the hip, and 2 units of O-neg. Your call sign was Bravo 26. She paused. Mine was Index. Index. I had filed 3 requests through 2 different veterans service organizations trying to find that call sign. I had written a letter to a battalion chaplain who never wrote back. I had spent 14 months certain that the medic who held my leg together on a dirt road in Afghanistan had rotated out and disappeared into a civilian's life somewhere, and that I would never be able to tell her what I needed to tell her. She had been an hour and a half from my mother's house this whole time. I made one call. It took 30 seconds. I said 4 words. "She's here. Come in." Came back through the curtain 11 minutes with my updated orders and found us talking. She took one look at the scene, the nurse sitting in the chair beside my bed, both of us quiet. The kind of quiet that has weight. And she picked up the chart and started reviewing it without a word. Efficient, clinical, deliberately incurious. She did not notice the 3 men standing in the corridor. I noticed them the moment they came through the main doors because I knew how they walked. Lester Pruitt, who had been the first one to find me on that road and had screamed for the medics so loud they heard him at the aid station 80 meters away. Carl Devereaux, who had held the field lamp while Index worked. Sergeant Roy Tilden, who had carried me the last 200 yards on his back because the stretcher frame had been lost in the blast. They had driven through the night from Fort Campbell. I had not asked them to come this far. I had told them only where I was, and they had come because that is the kind of men they are, and because they had been waiting 2 years for this as well. They came in one at a time, and they stopped in the corridor outside Bay 7, and they stood at attention. Not a performance. A ceremony anyone had planned. Just 3 men in civilian clothes. Jeans, work jackets, boots, standing straight, hands at their sides. Eyes forward the way you stand when there is nothing left to say, and standing is the only language that carries the weight. Index. She did not know they were coming. She heard the change in the hallway, the specific quality of silence that follows when a space goes still, and she turned and looked through the gap in the curtain. She saw them. I watched her face. She was not a woman who showed much. I had learned that in the last hour, but something moved through her then that she did not try to hold back. Not tears, a stillness. The kind that comes when something you have been carrying for a long time is finally set down by someone else's hands. Lester was the one who spoke. He said her call sign. One word, low and even, the way you say a name you have not forgotten for a single day in 2 years. Index. And he brought his right hand up. Devereaux and Tilden followed a half-beat behind. The same motion, the same silence. I was watching Pratt. She had stopped reading the chart. She was standing at the nurse's station 6 feet down the corridor, with the clipboard in her hand, and she was looking at those 3 men. Nurse in the doorway, and she was very still. She did not speak. She did not move. I do not know exactly what was happening behind her eyes, but I know she did not look away. Nobody looked away. Index stood in the doorway of Bay 7, in her slate-gray scrubs with her badge lanyard and her stethoscope, and she received what those 3 men were giving her the way a person receives something they earned a long time ago in a place most people will never go. Straight-backed, eyes clear, quiet. She had kept 6 of us alive on a road in Paktika province with a tourniquet and 2 units, blood and 11 minutes of pressure, and the absolute refusal to let the math win. She had done it alone. Team's vehicle disabled a kilometer back. No physician, no backup, no guarantee any of us were going to make it to the aid station. She had done it. And then she had come home and put on different scrubs and gone back to work. And she had not told anyone, because that is not why she did it. But we knew, and we had come to say so. That is the whole story. I went home 2 days later with a repaired surgical site, a prescription for an antibiotic I already knew I would forget to take, and a phone number written on the back of a triage notation card. Her handwriting, that same clean bracket and cross in the corner, a habit she could not quite shake. I have never been able to adequately explain to anyone who wasn't there what it means to find the person who held the line for you. My mother cried when I told her, but she cried at the wrong parts. The VA counselor wrote it down in his yellow pad. Do not need anyone to understand it. I just needed her to know that we remembered, that we drove through the night, that when we stood in that corridor and brought our hands up, we meant every second of it. Index knew. That was enough.